Hey everybody, I just wanted to touch base with everyone as there is a topic circulating that needs to be discussed. The headline for the story is Mission Landlord Denies Prospective Tenants Disclose Emotional or Psychological Issues. So the form, among other things, states, I certify that I do not have an emotional or a psychological issue that would necessitate getting an emotional support animal. So let's put this in perspective. It's very clear that a landlord could not ask a prospective tenant if they were on antidepressants or anti-anxiety medications. This is a very clear violation of a person's rights to protect their information concerning their disabilities. So what everyone needs to understand is that a legitimate emotional support animal prescribed by an individual's doctor or a mental health professional is no different than the medications. They are prescribed as a part of their treatment plan, and nobody should be discriminated against regarding their disability, obviously, or how they choose to have it treated. So if the fear is the legitimacy of the actual emotional support animal letter and the client's treatment plan, there are numerous ways to verify if the animal was prescribed by a doctor or a therapist. So the letter should be on a letterhead from the clinic or provider they're seeing that also clearly states their license number. The license number can then be checked on the state-regulated website. Further, the Fair Housing Act allows for the landlord to then request an additional document called a reasonable accommodation form, as long as it doesn't ask specifics about the disability. So if the letter is real, the doctor or the therapist will not have an issue signing and submitting this second verification. By outright denying someone who has an ESA or who might need one in the future is absurd. Mental health isn't a predictable ailment, and it can strike at any moment. Life happens. We also know that America has a mental health crisis right now, and a big part of that is people not getting the services that they need. Let's not add to the problem by intimidating someone who is in a housing complex, who might have experienced a sudden loss, a trauma, tragedy, who knows, but let's not make them hesitate to reach out for services because they signed something as ludicrous as a form that states, I certify that I do not have an emotional or a psychological issue that would necessitate getting an emotional support animal. So let's actually put that phrase in perspective as well. Let's say a person's in an accident, they have eye damage, and they have to have a seeing eye dog. Yes, ESAs and service dogs are very different animals, but they both provide a service. And in this case, a service that you couldn't foresee happening. So did you need a seeing eye dog beforehand? No, but you do now. Did the soldier who recently got home from his deployment need help with flashbacks from his acquired PTSD while deployed? No, but he does now. And let's go back to that statement again. This landlord is requiring their tenants to sign. It states, again, I certify I don't have an emotional or a psychological issue that would necessitate getting an emotional support animal. I know I'm repeating that, but here's my question. How in the world do they expect a person who is not a therapist or a psychologist or a doctor or a psychiatrist, how do they expect them to diagnose themselves and all future versions of themselves? What they're asking is not even relevant, but more importantly, it points out that there's still a stigma against mental health. There continues to be this idea that mental health is static, or mental health is terminal, or that certain people are only susceptible to it. And that's the farthest thing from the truth. Mental health knows no boundaries. This slip of paper here shows how far off we still are. There are simple ways to verify legitimacy of clinical documents. Maybe if people would spend enough time educating themselves about that kind of thing and less time proposing harmful documents that tell a prospective tenant they can't live here if they might need an ESA as part of a treatment plan. And God help them if you have a life-altering event or a chemical imbalance that occurs while you're living there because you're out of luck. So I'm not saying everyone needs an ESA or even a large population of people do. There are tons of forms of great treatments, and an ESA is a very unique form of treatment that it should be carefully considered by your therapist or your doctor. But to rule out something that could help mitigate symptoms, and in some cases save lives, that's a tragedy. We need to do better. We need to be better. This kind of behavior is so much bigger than the emotional support animal controversy. Those are the types of things that make people hesitate to reach out for treatment because they're portrayed so negatively. Certifying that they don't have an emotional or psychological issue before they can move in and that they won't get anything while they're there, that's upsetting. Last thing, if you're listening now and you need help, get it. Going to a therapist when you're overwhelmed should be no different than going to the doctor when you have a cold. Thanks, guys.